Welcome to the MetaView podcast, a podcast where we ask people shit and they answer. Let's get into it.
Do you believe it's morning? I'm alive, but that's the last thing on my mind.
Welcome, Griff.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Pete.
Yeah, so let's just get straight into it. Why are you here? Why are you in the Ethereum space?
Oh, I was going to say, because you invited me to come chat, man. No, but in the Ethereum space. Well, I fell into the Ethereum space through the DAO and Slockit. I was always attracted to the use case of blockchain technology, not necessarily the speculation aspects. So when Bitcoin was moving towards the store of value stuff, like I got into crypto mostly because I hate the banks and I really didn't want to be part of the standard financial system, as I felt like it was relatively evil and I didn't want my precious mojo going into that story. So Bitcoin was move for me, and just turned out that it was a very valuable commodity that I got really lucky with financially, for sure. And then as I read more and more about it, I kind of became obsessed and dedicated my life to it. And I was excited about the use cases. So when Bitcoin started moving to not doing anything with it and it just being commodity money, I looked for other options. I actually was really involved in, or not involved really, but I was following the Doge community and the BitShares community and NXT and all the other Bitcoin 2.0 coins, right? That's kind of what they're calling them back in the day. And then I thought Ethereum was vaporware, but then I was getting a master's degree in digital currencies actually, and I wrote a white paper around a sharing economy for a bicycle sharing economy, and I was following more of like the BitShares terminology and Dan Larimer with I kind of designed a decentralized autonomous corporation, I think is what they called it back then. So I just was Googling, hey, sharing economy and Bitcoin. And then I found Slockit before they really became a company or anything. And so I just started emailing them saying, hey, I want to work with you. How can I help? What can I do? I sent them a video of me explaining my white paper. And after like 2 months and 5 emails, they're like, okay, yeah, why don't you come in and like start hanging out with us? So I actually helped them start their Slack and just became like a volunteer community organizer. And I had some experience of community organizing through some random political action I was doing to keep the Seattle Supersonics in Seattle. Which I kind of led the community pushing for that political action for 2 years. And so I took those lessons and just started the DAO community. And then when the DAO got hacked, I became an important figure, I guess, because I was in the right place at the right time and was dedicated to making sure everyone got their money back. So I made a lot of friends. And now I'm stuck in the Ethereum community because I have such a strong network, and I love the Ethereum community, obviously. But I'm not an Ethereum maximalist. I don't really care about which blockchain is used for whatever. But I'm in the Ethereum community because I made so many friends during the DAO that it'd be silly to go somewhere else and start fresh when everything is so good here.
Right, makes sense. It's all about the community.
Oh yeah, and your network. There's value there. So if I want to get stuff done, I have such an advantage because I know so many people that I can get things, I can make things happen. I can hire cool people. I can, get on awesome shows like yours. It's just a lot easier for me.
Yeah, the power of the community is just amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And because my mission is not about the infrastructure. It's kind of weird how we focus so much on the chain and we almost lose sight of what is the point, what are we trying to do, what problems are we trying to solve.
Right. I only got really actively involved in the community during this past year, and
Like I can only tell like how much effect it had on me, like both in motivation and in like actually being able to get shit done, because you know people and you can connect the dots and you can find the right people and find advice and whatever you need. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, and it is a pretty good meritocracy, I would say, this social community here. Because I didn't know about you a year ago. Now you're a superstar, man. You're you're running this podcast, and Metagame is doing so many cool things, and it's really inspired. Even I don't know how much direct impact it's had on a lot of projects, but I'm sure it's pushed forward a lot of cool things. But I mean, lots of people have made quests. You know, you've influenced so many powerhouse groups, from SourceCred to CAD to Gitcoin. You know, you've been very influential, and you just came in a year ago, right? So I feel like while I say there is a huge advantage that people have if they have all these networks, it's not hard for if you're new to come in and just become like a major piece of the community.
Yeah, it actually is much easier than like one would think, because everyone is just so friendly and open to communication. Okay, just join us. Let's build cool things.
Yeah. It's this open source attitude, right? Like we all benefit from each other. This is the magic of public goods in some way, is that when you're just adding value to everyone else, you know, then it's really in everyone's best interest to be welcoming, and you know, like it's an alignment of the good of the Ethereum community and the good of the individual, because if you come in and you add value to Ethereum, we all benefit. So come on in.
Would you say that is different from the Bitcoin community?
Yeah, you know, the Bitcoin community kind of fell into this weird blockstream control cult. Number go up cult. I don't know why this happened. It's really sad. And then to see the fragmentation of Bitcoin Cash, I don't know. You know, it feels like power corrupts, right? And I feel like Bitcoin's power structure has been pretty corrupted. There was I don't know. I'm a little personally like biased because during the DAO hack, there was so backstory. There's this thing called the Dragon's Den. Have you ever heard of this, Pete?
No.
No. The Dragon's Den is like a secret group of Bitcoiners that basically do social engineering attacks around the crypto space. And
were they the ones with the document of how to disrupt communities?
Probably. I haven't seen that. That's interesting.
Oh yeah, that's leaked a while ago.
That's cool. I'll definitely have to check that out. But yeah, they basically came in and attacked the DAO community like 3 days after the hack. Like right after the hack, everything was pretty chill, you know, like relatively, considering how horrible everything really was. You know, we had things in the community, like people were being reasonable and understanding, and like we're all in this together, you know, and we had a great attitude. And then 3 days after the hack, it was just like within 2 hours, 3,000 accounts joined the Slack and started causing chaos. Just like, what the hell is going on? Just like lots of anger and people saying mean things, and it was uncontrollable, and it was clearly like an attack because it just came out of nowhere after 3 days, you know. And then with the I had already known about the Dragon's Den, and so it was kind of something. I was like, oh yeah,
those people.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Bitcoiners are attacking now. Shit. That's okay though, you know. So, but yeah, and tell me about this leaked document.
I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was basically explaining all the different steps you could take to like come into the community and really disrupt it, from like dragging it out and trying to raise suspicion among members to like trying to put down all the proposals for moving things forward. Like nasty stuff.
Yeah, and the only way to combat that kind of thing is to make sure you have a really strong culture and some sort of like respectable boundaries that people have to get through to become like influential in your community. And having these rules in place, that it's like, it's really tough because it's really easy to just go in and be like, we're going to build some tech and it's going to be cool. We're going to design our governance structure and we're going to be radically open and inclusive. And don't get me wrong, radical inclusivity is like one of my like huge values. That being said, for influence, you kind of need to have a graduated system so that you can protect yourself against these attacks. Unfortunately, when you start throwing money into a game, the game changes and there becomes different incentives for people to come in. And so you have to put in some preemptive forethought of cultural design on top of the technical protocol.
Right.
And Eleanor Ostrom has like these 8 principles that I think basically, if you can solve those 8 principles, if you can address each of those 8 principles, then your cultural design passes that test, and that's a good enough standard to say, okay, you have a robust cultural design. We can move forward.
Yeah, Ostrom did a lot of great work in the common space.
Yeah, I mean, but you do this a lot, right? Like you've with Metagame, you've been going deep into building cultural tools. Like how do you address it? How do you go with it?
We've kind of been closing it down recently. Like previously anybody could join whenever, and now we're moving towards like instead of like trying to expand the community and getting as many new people, trying to like really create stronger connection between the members, creating a stronger community within, and like really cementing this culture before growing it further. So we're starting to become more careful about who we let in and making sure that the people that we let in are really value aligned.
Yeah, man, that's it. Like values, mission, things in a bear market. All the people that were there were gems anyway.
Yeah. Now it's getting different.
Yeah, definitely. Your community has to be a little bit more selective, unfortunately, because people, when you're trying to build a community, your focus isn't on number go up. Often it's focused. There's a lot of other. Number go up is one small piece, of course. Like it sucks if number goes down, but there's a lot of other intangibles that need to be considered, and like values that valuable assets that are not easy to quantify like that. When some people come in who are only focused on number go up or short-term, their own personal incentives, they can be very destructive to the rest of the people who have built something together, which is really too bad.
You're right. Yeah, we're building this community trying to build this community of high trust, and like where the supposition that people are basically good, and we can't have people from 4chan coming and showing their scams.
Yeah.
It breaks the system.
What are some of your favorite strategies to create this high trust?
Honestly, I'm still struggling with that. Only started going down this path of trying to create a stronger community like a bit ago, because so far it was all just, okay, everybody just come in, and then it took me a while to figure out, okay, we need to stop doing that and focus more inwards. So I'm still trying to figure out different ways of creating this stronger connection. I mean, it happens over time as we work together and meet on like weekly basis and all of that, but trying to figure out some better ways of like doing it faster, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. Like doing it faster is not going to be, it's not going to work.
Yeah, that's also true.
Trust is not something that just like you can just create. Especially trust is something that's really easy to break, and I don't know, like especially in the like meta cartel community, it's kind of this bro fraternity culture a little bit, and it's not the most conducive to becoming vulnerable and like, doing the normal things that would build trust. It's just like a bunch of tech bros that, I mean, no offense, I'm definitely generalizing and over exaggerating. Obviously there's lots of sweethearts in there, myself included, and you, but the general kind of like vibe is, oh hey, let's just hack stuff together and don't let feelings and emotions get in the way. But those feelings and emotions are those help build trust, and whether you recognize it or not, there's like there's the cold, like, oh, do you do what you say you're going to do? And if you do these things continuously, then you build trust. People can trust you. Yes, that's true. But also, if you show vulnerability and let people in emotionally, that builds another kind of trust. And it's really hard to do in a remote online, kind of like male-dominated community.
Right. And yet, this I guess where we kind of differentiate from the general crypto space, where it's all like these kind of touchy-feely things are like, none of that is important. All that matters is building the trustless technology where we can work together without trusting anyone, and blah blah blah. And we are trying to create this different culture. And this like ties back to how I usually explain the difference between the old Bitcoin community and the Ethereum community, which is like, I don't know if it's true or not, but the way I see it is that Bitcoin community is a lot more like fear driven, which is like, we need to get away from the government, you can't trust anybody, like you need to be anonymous, blah blah blah. While the Ethereum community is like optimism driven, basically. It's not about hiding from someone and escaping the government, it's more about let's build cool shit, like let's build the future, it's way more focused on positive things than escaping the negatives.
Yeah, I mean, we can't get away from trust. That's crazy. We're always going to be trusting things. Is anyone reading all the code that they interact with? I mean,
right.
Good luck.
Yeah.
You're always going to be relying on trust. What's really cool about this technology is that you can build a trustless foundation. Then you can create really cool trust systems on top of it, where it's like, look, I'm a trustworthy guy. I created this economy, or we created this economy, and we're this community. Come on in. And we're built on a trustless foundation. So if you don't like the value that we're creating, then you can bail at any time. But you can't extract trust from a token of value. I mean, all of these currencies are quantified in people's minds based on trust. If you trust that US dollar is going to be around for the next 10 years, then you're more willing to, hold US dollars. If you trust the Bitcoin community is not going to change, the protocol and start inflating the 21 million Bitcoin, then you're more likely to hold. But if look at like Bree, that they had a completely trustless system. They didn't even, their exits, this was yesterday, yesterday there was a crypto community, like a DeFi project called Bree that was around for months, like, I don't know, 3-4 months, and total value lock times time means that you should trust them, right? Well, they decided, or I don't even know, this only happened less than 24 hours ago, they just dumped all their coins and turned off the website and Twitter, deleted everything, and ran. Like, we have no idea why. Yeah, we have no idea why or what happened. All the infrastructure is still there. All the pieces are still in place. Everything was audited. Everything was trusted. They didn't create any kind of like hack or anything. The team just had tokens. They dumped and turned everything off. And now the token, even though it was a completely trustless system and everything is clear and transparent, and they didn't break any rules according to the system, the value of Bree is nothing now, basically. It's up to the community to try to pick up the pieces, but it's really hard. They don't have control of the same website. They don't have the
Right.
Twitter account. They lost all the followers. They don't have the intellectual capital that was developed around this code base and how to improve it. You know, there were people that were leaders that just failed their community, you know. Who knows, maybe the community could pull it out, but why would they? They can just start another coin. Anyone who has the power to pull that thing out would be better off just starting another coin. So yeah, we're not going to get away from trust anytime soon. Like, these communities are based off of you know, trusting that we have a mission, and the leadership and the real workhorses of these communities will be able to achieve their missions and their goals. And that's what brings value to these crypto economies. And that's the cool thing about crypto economies, is that we can actually create economies around social goods and values that couldn't be quantified before, and didn't have a business model.
Right. These community currencies are gonna be huge.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that we can start easily just copy paste and create an economy, I mean, that's bold, man. that kind of power has never been held in the people's hands before.
How hard is it to time lock tokens?
It's super easy.
Like, that shouldn't be hard. Yeah.
It's copy.
Yeah, I'm thinking I should probably time lock my seeds, because right now we have low liquidity and anyone can just see that, okay, these two people can easily dump the market.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna just lock them up to, like, boost trust.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the thing, like, everyone, you almost don't have to lock them up because everyone trusts you, and it's not in you're a publicly known person, although I bet your name really isn't Peace.
It's Peter.
Oh, don't dox yourself, man. No, I'm just kidding. But that said, people trust you, you know. You should time lock them, because why not? But at the same time, you don't have to. Interesting story about Steam. Do you follow the Steam Hive fork?
Oh yeah, I'm not in details, but I know the Justin Sun drama.
Yeah. Well, there's some interesting details. Like, first off, I'm still going to hold out that this after all the crazy things that have already happened in crypto in 2020, I think the Steam Hive fork is the most interesting and probably like the most important thing to study of any action that's happened in DAOs this year. And it would be really crazy for something else bigger to come out, honestly, because what happened was that Steam, the company, was bought by Justin Sun, right? Tron. But Steam, the company before, was a very trusted member of the Steam community. And the main guy behind the Steam blockchain had kind of made an agreement with everyone that he had all these tokens that would be used only for like incentivizing the Steam network. And he wouldn't use them to vote. He wouldn't use them for anything else. They weren't time locked or anything. Everyone was just trusting that he wouldn't use them. And why would he, you know? But then, you know, Justin Sun bought the company, and now he has access to those tokens. And, well, people didn't trust Justin Sun. So they said, hey, let's fork the network and lock those tokens so that the technical protocol can match the cultural protocol, which says that these tokens are locked and they can only be used for incentivizing the Steam network. And Justin Sun was freaking out, like, no way, you cannot lock my tokens, right? And so the way Steam works is kind of like EOS. There's a certain number of witnesses or validators, right, that run the DAO. And so because Justin Sun is so well connected with Chinese exchanges and the like, he was actually able to use the tokens that he had, plus all the tokens that were deposited in Binance and a couple other exchanges, to kick out all the witnesses that were trying to hard fork his coins and lock them, and then put in witnesses that agreed with him. And so And so now it's like, okay, what the hell? Our blockchain just got taken over by some crazy Chinese dude. Talk about like a bro. There's a great article about how crazy Justin Sun is that came out like, I don't know,
a few days ago.
Yeah, that was really interesting about him and the BitTorrent community. Definitely worth the skim. But anyway, so the community is like, well, guess what? There's this thing called forking. So I love the Hive fork, because what they did was they said, hey, anyone who is part of this Steam coup, basically, that happened, we're going to fork, and we're not going to give them any tokens. But everyone else we're going to give tokens to in our fork.
Right.
And the interaction that this created was that everyone on Hive had Steam and Hive. And so they could dump their Steam and lower the price of Steam and not dump their Hive. But then all the people who were on the Justin Sun coup, they didn't get any Hive. So they couldn't dump Hive.
Right.
And what do you know? Hive pumped. And all the community and everyone just moved to Hive. All the builders that were excited about it. And all the users, they could just make it really easy for the users. They can just post their content on both blockchains and earn both tokens. So
Right.
it was a win-win for everyone except for Justin Sun and his crew.
It's perfect.
Yeah. And I mean, Hive, literally, they just printed money. They just created a new currency. They issued a new money that represents their community values. And their community values had value that Justin Sun was trying to destroy. And instead of that value being destroyed, the community got together and amplified it through the issuance of a new currency. And that's the piece that I don't know if enough people have like studied this system and looked at the power of issuance in quantifying a qualitative value of social community. And that's where the Hive story really excels, because they printed money out of nothing. They dumped their Steam tokens and created a new currency, and everyone became way richer because of it. And it was because people believed there was real value behind this new community. And they quantified that value through the issuance of a new currency. This is so blatantly obvious that now we have this power to quantify things that before were completely left out of our normal economy. I'm really excited. This is what gets me out of bed every day. That we have the power to issue currencies that represent value that has previously been completely forgotten in our world or in our economies. And so we don't design these values become underappreciated when everyone's playing the money game. And this is what I love about metagame, dude, is that you guys make it really clear. All of these economies are just games. Money is points,
Right.
Everyone's trying to win the money game.
Yeah, and each community values its own things
Yes.
and makes its own currency.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you're adding value to the community, you should be scoring points. And the metagame meme, dude, it's just so good. It's so clean and real and like in your face. Like, no, guess what? We are creating games. And these games are actually economies. I don't know. I love it. Is that what how did you come around to the idea of metagame? What inspired this in the first place?
I guess a lot of it comes way back from the days when the Zeitgeist was my favorite documentary, and I was really into the Venus project.
Oh yeah.
So I was always interested in building these sort of decentralized communities. Except that I always thought that I should build a physical location, like a village or something like that.
Yeah.
And then through Meta Cartel, thought that we needed more infrastructure for the Meta Cartel itself. Okay, but why build it just for the Meta Cartel? It should be built so that Meta Cartel can be a part of it, but so that all the other communities can just join as well. And became metagame.
Yeah, and the quest idea was really fundamental. I saw Zargum make a CAD quest, and it's so cool. You know, it's like here's your quest. It makes it fun. It's like, oh, I want to learn CAD. I want to and maybe even be paid to do it. I want to score points in these, and then these points have value because people believe they have value. And just like the quest approach, the approach of making this a fun game. I don't know, man. It's really clutch. So how did you come up with this quest idea? And what happened? Because I haven't seen it take off as much as I had hoped either.
Yeah, we're mostly focused on like chasing these raids.
The raid.
Raids, I guess, are composed of multiple quests, and yeah, like a long-term projects basically.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we haven't been making many quests, I guess. Like we call most of them challenges because they're like really short things, like okay, go and shill this article somewhere, and go do this, and go like really small things.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have them on Discord. We just haven't made it clear that I guess we haven't really made it even possible for other people to just come in and make their own quests, because like for example Zargam made those quests, but he wrote down that okay, you get 500 seeds or something like that for learning about
CAD.
CAD. But we were like, yeah, but for us this isn't really valuable because 500 seeds, like it takes a lot of effort for building metagame, and like at that time when he made that quest, 500 seeds was like 10% of total seeds or something like that.
Oh.
And we were like, this doesn't really contribute to metagame directly, so it doesn't make sense for us to be giving out so many seeds for someone to just learn CAD. And so we haven't really figured out this system, how to make it so that people can make their own quests, because we need to make it so that people can make their own quests and reward themselves. And the way the metagame currently works is that all the quests are rewarded by metagame itself. And yeah, we need to make it so that other people can make quests, but they are the ones that are funding the quests. Unless they're like they should be both at least partially funded by metagame, if they're aligned with the metagame goals. Like learning CAD is cool. Like we should be giving some seeds for that.
Yeah. Well, maybe it shouldn't be seeds. Maybe it should be like, oh, CAD Zargum. Yeah, here's like 500 seeds. Like that we'll lock those seeds in an NFT or and make a refungible NFT that you can inflate. Or it doesn't have to be. NFT is not necessarily the right word, but like here's a token contract that's backed by 500 seeds or whatever. Like mint all the tokens you want, you get to decide how to distribute it, and these tokens lay claim to these seeds.
Right. And NFT actually is not a bad idea itself, because I was thinking that like when minting achievements, so there would be achievement NFTs, and that they would have like seeds baked into them. And you could like destroy an achievement to take out the seeds. Yeah. And so that could be it.
Yeah, and if you have like you want to give people the power to. This is I love Panvala. I really really like Panvala. I love metagame. I love all these things, but I don't know if it's the best approach to force everyone to use your currency. Like I think it's a more interoperable approach to say, yes, we've created this currency, it has this value, and you can use it to back your own currency, or you can use it, we want to encourage you to have more freedom outside of our system, but connected to our system.
Yeah, for sure. I think that like people completing quests should be able, okay, you complete this quest, you get 5 seeds, you get 10 this, 15 that, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like get a whole bucket of different tokens.
Yeah, or even
the idea was
a balancer pool.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, the idea is that people come in with their own DAOs that have their own tokens, and also people will be able to tokenize things inside of metagame. So at least that's what I was thinking originally. That like you join metagame, and if you're joining, for example, as a builder, you could create some token specifically for that. Or if you're joining as a DAO for marketing, then you have these shilling tokens, and yeah, you offer some of those tokens to metagame, and you get some seeds back. Yeah, exchanging tokens and yeah, tokenizing everything.
Yeah, and it's not tokenizing everything just to tokenize everything. Like you tokenize things because they have value, and when you tokenize, you can quantify the value that is consistently forgotten in our day-to-day lives, where we can't consider the value that's there. So, like for instance, all these governance tokens, there's a reason they have value, and just because we don't quantify the governance power in our day-to-day life doesn't mean politicians aren't spending fucking billions of dollars to get power over, the governance of public goods. They obviously are. Even though, like, how could you spend millions of dollars to get a job that pays you, 150 to 200K a year? Like, there must be something else there. There must be some other value. And when we create governance tokens, we're effectively decentralizing the politician that would normally be representing their governance and holding the governance power. We're decentralizing them and quantifying the value of of the public good that's being governed. And that's why these governance tokens have value, because there is actual value in having the power to control how these public goods evolve. And like Uniswap just printed $400 million, and there was no inflation, there was deflation. The currency, apparently $400 million airdrop to the community wasn't enough. It needed to be, Uniswap was worth more than that. Like, the power to have influence over the development of Uniswap is worth more than $400 million. Wow, And it's because there's real value. They printed money, they quantified qualitative value that was there. So many people rely on Uniswap. So many Ethereum organizations are dependent on this public good. And influence over that public good is important to almost every small community that uses it as their primary exchange. It's important to Balancer. It's important to all the DeFi projects that are using those LP tokens to print money based on. I mean, having the authority to change Uniswap or having some stake in the discussions of how to evolve Uniswap is going to have a huge impact on how this industry evolves. So of course that token is going to be worth something. Now, $500 million, $1 billion, I don't know, right? But it's definitely going to be worth something. And it's really easy to say, as Uniswap did for a long time, oh, our protocol doesn't need a token. It's like, yeah, you're right. Nothing needs a token. No one's going to die because, oh my God, I'm starving. If only I would have had a token, I would be able to be fed. Tokens do not hit Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They're not. It's not a base layer. Nothing needs a token, but a lot of things benefit from a token. In fact, I would say almost everything benefits from a token. Like, the power to print money is it's very empowering. So when you can create a game that aligns incentives so that certain things that may be forgotten in your normal in like the normal economy that you have, that your organization lives in, can be incentivized so that the power of your community can be enhanced. Of course this is going to add value. But and the best, this is what I'm so happy Uniswap made a token, because Uniswap was always the champion of, you don't need a token. You don't need a token. No one needs you don't need look at Uniswap. We don't need a token. It's like, okay, Vitalik, like, don't get me wrong, love you, buddy. You're doing great, but yeah, everyone needs a token. You have a token. Everyone should have a token. You know?
Yeah, towards the end. Sorry to cut
No,
you
go
off.
ahead.
No, I just want to say how during like the calm down of the 2017, like everyone was trying to say, oh, does this project really need a token? Does this project really need a token?
Yeah.
And like, I hope that question doesn't come up again, because people are starting to realize, okay, you don't need a token, but it's good having a token. But yeah, also a lot more tokens are finally like actually governance tokens and not just utility token without any utility.
Yeah, I mean, there are Ponzi schemes, right? Like, my favorite example is this BNSD token, because they have this about page that's like, it's just like defines Ponzi so well, and it's funny because BNS is like a real exchange in India, and they're like, DeFi is great, so we've created a Ponzi scheme. And I mean, they don't say the word Ponzi, but they're like, this token doesn't have any governance power. It doesn't do anything. It's just DeFi. It's like, okay, well, that's doing it wrong. You know, like, it doesn't actually, you know, there are, not every token is great. And that's the problem, is that 2017, a lot of people took advantage of tokenization as in general, and they did it wrong, you know, and that doesn't mean the idea of tokens is bad. That just means you know, with great power comes great responsibility, and some people abuse their power. And so, you know, there would be a lot of value in tokens that can, or some kind of third-party certification agency that you can trust, that can actually start rating some of these tokens on real value that they're representing, and the rights. You know, that's what tokens are. Tokens are just packages of rights that can have a quantified value. That's the real core of what you get to do when you create a token. And so if you're not giving any rights, then whatever that value is quantified as is kind of a sham. You know, like, I mean, but there are something, not everything needs rights, like NFTs. You know, if it just represents art, you know, you basically get the right to say, I own the authentic, you know, piece of this art, the authentic version. You know, it doesn't have to be so governance-y or so anything. You know, there is a lot of interesting value that's not so obvious.
But there is still like pure ownership. Like, you don't need governance over something that you completely own.
Yeah, I mean, you own it. That's your governance. And it's, what's cool is it's so rare to own anything these days. You know, like, people think they own their land. Clearly not. It's not. You don't own the land. Government owns the land. They rent it to you. It's called property tax. And they can take it from you if they want. Eminent domain. Like, I don't know how you define ownership, but that doesn't sound like exclusive control to me.
Right.
But NFTs, man, it's pretty exclusive. Like, the governance, anything on the Ethereum network is pretty exclusive. It's pretty hard to hard fork the Ethereum network these days. It's kind of like the exception that proves the rule, the DAO, that like really showed how hard it is to, you know, break the rules of the Ethereum network and take ownership away from something. But we have to recognize it is possible, and that's what's cool about blockchains, is that it is every blockchain is community run, and there are a set of rules that are like protocol ingrained in the technical protocol, but we can't ignore that there's also the set of rules that are cultural that lay on top of the technical protocol, and those are also important. It's a lot better when they're written down, but sometimes they define themselves as the community evolves. And the Ethereum community kind of said, well, 14% of all Ether being at risk here, being taken into the hands of just a few people, it's probably not the best for things. And also this hacker running away and hurting a lot of people and benefiting so greatly. You know, this passes the threshold of what is okay in 2016. with this protocol, so let's change it. And there was enough support to actually change it, and I couldn't imagine. I just cannot imagine that it will happen again.
Yeah, there was so much drama around it, like, oh, this says the president, it's a slippery slope. Like, it never got anywhere close to that. Like, Parity was pushing for another fork for getting them the hacked funds, right? But that was like a blip on the radar compared to the DAO hack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, the problem with Parity was that they were, I mean, dude, I feel really bad for those guys because they got they experienced the hack on the same function before, but Jordy and I and the Giveth team and the white hack group basically came in and hacked most of the funds away from everyone else before the hack could happen. This is the first Parity hack. So, like, the second we found out about the vulnerability, within a couple hours, we had stolen like $200 million from everybody's vulnerable wallets. And then within a week, we gave everyone's money back, It was a lot of work. Stealing money is always easier than giving it back. Let me just say that. It's way easier to hack money. And this is what YFI is dealing with right now. Wifey. Like, that hacker that gave back the $8 million, dude, that just ruined Andre and the project, honestly. The fact that they have to now figure out how to distribute $8 million fairly to the people that were affected, there's just no way. They're going to lose. A lot of people are going to feel like they should have gotten more. So distributing funds off of something like that is way harder than anyone can imagine. But yeah, so Parity had that hack happen, and then they go and they're like we did a community audit on their multi-sigs. We did all this work, and then like a few months later, they had another hack on the same function, dude. The exact same function that had the problem before had the problem again. And like, how could you rally the community behind returning their money when they didn't follow the processes that the community asked them to follow? There's no way they were going to get them. I actually think we should have hard forked and helped them out. That's how I would do things. Like, I'm a forgiving guy. I would like to be part of a network that feels like, it's not about justice. It's about creating a safe space for people to build good things. So I'm all about, I would love to unlock these funds, but that being said, I don't think that you can get the community to rally around it.
Yeah, when it's such a clear fuck up, it's like...
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. I'm not as justice oriented as a lot of people are. So I can totally see where there's I mean, the biggest problem is the community that has to decide about this is biased, because by locking those coins, they individually benefit. That's less ether that can enter the market, and especially because Polkadot is kind of an Ethereum killer. So basically 2/3 of the ether that they raised in their ICO to kill Ethereum is locked, and it's just a very interesting comedy. Oh my God, there's so many stories like that, man, that are just so funny and interesting in this space. It's a wild world.
But yeah, Ethereum became much more resilient. Basically, it did become a sovereign jurisdiction.
Yeah.
In which you can own things, and that can be taken away from you without you doing a mistake.
Yeah. But it's very important to have these tests too, right? That's how you know where the line is. For your sovereignty to be challenged in the Ethereum jurisdiction, it has to be around as big of a deal as the DAO was. 14% of all ether in existence. if it's less than the parity hack, which was, I don't know, not even 1% of all ether in existence, there's no way that your sovereignty can be challenged.
And those are still like Ethereum native dramas. So, like, I can't imagine a government, like a nation state, being able to exert any sort of power as any of these things that happen. Like, it was so funny to read that thread the other day on Twitter. I was like, okay, but you can't think that the government can make him shut down Uniswap?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
No,
can
you
ask
can't.
people nicely.
No. Yeah, I mean, they really can't. They can do a lot of things to hate him. You know, they can, like what happened to Virgil Griffith, one of the other Griffs. You had Austin Griffith last time. Now you got this Griff. It'd be great to try to get the Virgil Griff.
Yeah.
He's
Like,
under
his
house
quote
arrest.
is in the "What the fuck is MetaView" article.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, talking
Yeah, I
about
mean,
warping the incentives in the game theory.
Virgil is one hell of an interesting character. Okay, but you know, the government basically said, "Oh, hey, you just sent ether between North Korea and South Korea, and bragged about it. Guess what? You're going to jail." So it's not like, let me just say, the government can exert power, and they do exert power. They may not be able to shut down Uniswap, but they can shut down Hayden, and that will have an impact on Uniswap. You know, like if the U.S. government went in and arrested Hayden today, the Uniswap token price would tank, right? If a government arrested Vitalik, you know, the ether price would tank. They can't shut down the core functionality of these things, but because these protocols are built with trust and important players, they do have this horrible power over meat space that can have influence over the virtual space.
Yeah, but it's still just you cut off one head and another one grows.
Absolutely. And yeah, absolutely. It's not like it would be destroyed, but it could be tough. I mean, and this is the thing. This is why, like, so Giveth, I started this project called Giveth, which is really focused on blockchain for good and kind of trying to support crypto donations, basically, long story short. And it's been a non-legal entity for a long time. And, you know, but according to, you know, there's no such thing as a non-legal entity to a government. Everything is a general partnership, if that's the default standing. And recently, we finally became a 501c3 nonprofit, so like a U.S. nonprofit. I'm a little mixed about it, but in the end, it's the right thing to do. And Eleanor Ostrom actually pushed this on me and was the final convincing. A lot of people have been telling me you need to have a legal entity, and I just was like, screw you, man. I don't want to have a legal entity. You know, my idealism. I'm a crypto anarchist. I don't need them, right? But in the end, it's about being robust and creating a robust protocol that's safe from attacks. And the legal attack is a real fear, and if you care about having a robust system, then you need to prepare for that dimension. So
yeah, I mean, that's one of the 8 principles. Like, you gotta get recognized and be legit in the eyes of the nation states or the whatever power that be. And yeah, the last time we talked, which I think was we talked after Eat Paris, but that's where he told me, I think, that Giveth was still, like, it doesn't exist anywhere in the legal world.
Yeah.
And for how long did it go on like that?
Well, since 2016 until about a month ago. So, almost 4 years. And, I mean, but the thing is that not having a legal entity means that Giveth had a legal entity in every country, and it was the worst possible legal entity you could imagine. So,
What do you mean?
There's this idea of a general partnership. So if you have an organization, a group of people that are working on a common enterprise, on some just working together, then in most countries in the world, you have a default legal entity that is a group of legal persons. And this is how the judicial system deals with you. And so if your non-legal entity causes some harm, they default into this idea of a general partnership. And then every legal person who is part of that common enterprise becomes individually liable for the entire wrong, right? Like for Giveth, it's really hard to think of any wrong. All we're doing is enabling people to receive crypto donations. So like the donors, if they lose their money, that was the whole point. They're donating their money, you know? Like, it's really, really hard. That's why it was really, really easy to be a non-legal entity, because it's like almost impossible for us to hurt anyone. Everyone who's interacting with our stuff is either begging for money and they don't have any, and if they don't get any, like that's where they are now. And the people who are donating, they have no expectations of any profit or any return. So it's really easy. That being said, you know, it's basically the worst strategy. And like Eleanor Ostrom's, her 8 principles for governing the commons, they're just really, each one of them is basically preventing a catastrophic failure mechanism. You know, like each one of them is just like, you don't have to do any of them. But if you check off those boxes, you end up with a very robust system that is not likely to fail through a cultural attack that you didn't design for, that is difficult to design for on the technical realm in the crypto space. You know, you just, it's really, some of them are easy. Like the first one is boundaries, making sure you have clear boundaries. If you have the token, you're part of the group. If you don't, then you're not, you know? So that's really easy, but you still have to define it culturally. There are people that are in the common stack, for instance, that don't have any tokens. They still consider themselves part of the common stack, and it's because they are, because we don't have the same definition. We don't follow that, oh, if you have the token, you're part of the commons. You're either part of the common stack or not. There are other ways to be part of the common stack. So culturally, we don't use that exact definition, but you still have to define it, and it needs to be clear so people know where they stand. Yeah.
And common stack also has a legal entity.
Yeah, we're a Swiss association. That's my favorite legal entity, by far. It's so amazing, dude. Like, okay, the Common Stack Swiss association is way more legit than most, but oh man, these Swiss associations are so cool, dude. Like, you can create a Swiss association. You have to have a Swiss person, like a Swiss resident. They don't even have to have citizenship. They just have to have residency in Switzerland. And you can create an association and write down, you know, put paperwork together, and then boom, you have a Swiss association, and you don't even have to turn that paperwork into anyone. You can just have it. It's incredible. Like, you don't even have to turn it into a government. You can just say, look, we have these papers. We are a legally recognized Swiss association. And that just moves your jurisdiction there. So if you know a Swiss person, and you're stuck in this non-legal entity world, like, just go hang out with them, put together some paperwork, copy, paste, deploy. You have a legal Swiss association. And if anything happens, you can say, oh, hey, guess what? You know, UK or wherever there's like a lawsuit, we're a Swiss association. So bring that party over to Switzerland and learn French or German, because the legal stuff isn't even done in English. So, you know, it's a very robust method. Ooh, that's my timer.
And how come you made Giveth? You didn't make Giveth as well as Swiss association?
We thought about it, but we kind of fell into the 501c3. There's a lot of Americans on the team, and there's, you know, being able to give the wealthy and economically privileged American community a tax rebate Americans love their coupons. It's just the way we are. So if we can say, oh, guess what? You get a discount on your taxes for donating, it helps. And one of the cool things with our 501c3, we created a DAF, a donor advised fund. And the general idea is to make it really easy, kind of like how Open Law did with DAOs, LLC DAOs, where you can just create a DAO and then you end up getting an LLC just like that. We found this DAF structure in the US where we can do something similar, where you can spin up a DAO and become a 501c3 nonprofit and actually give tax rebates to Americans who donate to your DAO. And then the DAO has governance over the funds. It's a really interesting opportunity. So we're kind of testing it out ourselves, dog fooding it to see how it can work and how we should structure it for other communities, so that anyone who wants to start a nonprofit DAO can come in, create a DAO, distribute tokens to their community, and then the funds that people donate can actually be given tax receipts. It's very powerful for our use case, which is building nonprofits and encouraging donations.
Makes sense. And your timer went off, so it means you have to go.
Yeah, I should run. Actually, going to talk to lawyers about the common stack. We're solidifying some things. That's the Swiss lawyers right now, man. Kind of really aligns with our conversation. That's I'm gonna go pay way too much money to go talk to a Swiss lawyer and cross the T's, dot the I's, and make sure that we're doing everything right.
Yeah. Well, good luck. Yeah, I would love to talk to you some more, but we are over an hour anyway. So yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, we could talk forever, Pete. And I'm sorry for ranting. I didn't give you enough of the floor, honestly, but I probably had too much coffee.
It's a podcast, so it's about you, not about me.
Well, that's good, because that's definitely how this one turned out.
Alright, dude. Nice talking to you, and yeah, thank you for coming.
Always a pleasure, Pete. Talk to you soon.
Do you believe it's morning? I'm alive, but that's the last thing on my mind. Do you believe it's morning? I'm alive, but that's the last thing on my mind.